Welcome everybody to the 2019 Playoff Pairing Show. My name is Nate Albaugh, and I was a small part of getting the I8FA going a year ago. I currently coach at Unity High School in Tolono, Illinois, and just want to kick things off here and let you know we did have some slight technical difficulties already. And again, we're not a professional TV studio, but we're going to do our best. If at any time your stream goes out or something cuts out or the camera cuts out, just hang with us. We'll get it fixed quickly. My guess is within 60 seconds, and we'll be right back with you. Here I am alongside John Lawler, the head football coach of the Alden Hebron Giants and the president of the I8FA. John, thanks so much for joining us.
Nate, thank you for having me. This is it's an exciting night. I mean, this is something that you kind of came up with last year, and the association decided to go ahead and move forward with it, and I think it'll be fun.
Well, we're super excited, and you know, getting this thing going. I think back to a year ago, and where we both were. Right, you guys had been playing 8-man for a year or two, and I was part of starting a program at Judah Christian, and we knew we had to get something going to help 8-man grow in Illinois. And here we are, it's grown into this. What has the experience been like for you and your team?
Well, I think it's been good. And I think you're seeing by the growth of the teams involved just in 1 year's time, that people are realizing that this is the move for small schools to save their programs, and even for a little bit larger schools that have been struggling to save their football programs. So I think all the reasons we started it for are coming true, and I think we're helping just do exactly what we set out to do.
You're right. The goal is to save football, to bring more kids to football rather than less. And that's why I believe so much in the I8FA, why I believe so much in 8-man football itself being a great option. Listen, I don't care if I'm playing one-on-one. When I'm playing football, It's a special feeling.
Right.
And that's what this is all about. We got a lot of people out there. Last I saw, our stream was over 100 people watching. And my guess is there's a lot of TVs that have multiple people surrounding them right now.
I hope so. I hope there's some big parties. I know I've talked to a few of the coaches already this afternoon, and hopefully the kids. I know Westminster's watching, and let's give a shout out to those Giants at Hoop Sports Bar and Grill. I know they'll be watching. So.
Boy, that is cool. Playoff parties are the best. Well, what are we playing for here? Well, we are playing for an opportunity to play in the 2019 state championship at April Zorn Memorial Stadium at Monmouth College in Monmouth, Illinois on Friday, November 22nd at 7 p.m. Coach, you know this venue well. How were we so lucky to get this game at Memorial Stadium?
Well, when we were talking about finding a venue, we kind of wanted to stay with the smaller school, but one that had a proud tradition. And luckily, my son Dylan played for Monmouth College, and I got to know the coaches down there real well. Coach Bell was the head coach at that time, but Coach Braun obviously has taken over. He was the defensive coordinator. And I know Coach Braun pretty well, and I reached out to him, and he said they'd be happy to help. They knew this was coming, and it's a good venue. It's a great venue, as a matter of fact, and it's in central western Illinois, where we had some interest and some teams interested. So I thought it was a great place to go with it. And between him and the athletic director, Coach Haynes, Roger Haynes, they've been great for us, and they agreed to have us back. They wanted us back, and it's just been a great fit for us.
Well, it has, and a year ago we were at the state championship game in Monmouth. Let's take a look at some highlights of that game. It was Milford Cissna Park against Alden Hebron. Coach, that's your Giants there, and you were able to keep it close for a quarter, but in the end, the MCP Bearcats are just a little too much to handle, and there's no doubt that they're still a load to handle. Yeah, for Alden Hebron, the standouts were Brad Judson and Gideon Shower. For MCP, it was guys like Kennedy Kunch and Jared Shunke and Nick Allen and Rudy King. Big Cam, that number one in the middle. They were a load, and they won that game 66-12. Here on the phone, I have MCP head coach Clint Schwartz. Coach, thanks for joining us, and congrats on a 2018 state championship.
Thank you very much for having me. Very exciting time.
Well, here you followed up a 2018 state championship with a 9-0 record, Coach. And what have the following 2 years been like in your community, for your program? What has been the feeling?
It's been, really it's been a program saver for us. Going from, a couple of years ago to, maybe we wouldn't have a football team to, having the success last year and then winning the state championship, and then, this year following it up and being able to go 9-0. It's, kind of the energy level and at the height of everything's kind of through the roof right now. Our guys, we have a very special group of kids, and it's very fun.
Well, I've seen the Bearcats play a couple times. You guys are a load. You're an offensive juggernaut, but your defense a little overlooked there as well. You guys play great defense. And, you guys also are up by a lot, and you're getting a lot of young kids playing time. The program looks to be healthy, Coach. How have you gotten so many people to buy into 8-man football?
Well, I think, number one, it starts off with those kids last year and us having success, and, but being able to play good defense and, not being scared or not panicking, when the other team scores or little things go wrong, and you kind of just stay with the game plan. Our kids do a really good job of staying focused. They don't panic when things go wrong. It's just stick with what we do. We don't have a lot of different things that we do, but we try to do them as well as we can, and our kids have done a really good job with that.
Well, Coach, at a 9-0 record and the most points, you guys have locked up number one seed, and you will have a bye week. How do you guys plan on using your bye week?
I think it's going to be, 100% focused on ourselves. Kind of going to go back to the basics. A little bit kind of like we did back in the summer, where little drills, it's all focused on ourselves. There's not so much a game plan to put in. And, we'll give the guys a day off or a day or two off and get some rest and get ready to go for when the playoffs start for us.
Well, Coach, best of luck to you. Thanks for joining us, and good luck to you in the 2019 playoffs.
Thank you.
So there you have it. There is Coach Schwartz, and that's all flashing back to the 2018 state championship. Coach, you played in it. We were able to help get this thing up and running. And the state championship game last year, the energy was real. The crowds were great.
Yeah.
What was it like being a part of it?
My goodness, it was a cold night. It was a cold night, and I mean, playing in the second half, it was like playing in a snow globe. But it's a little bit later this year, so hopefully it won't be that cold. But it was a great experience for the kids. I mean, and Milford's community came down, supported good. Our little community came down, supported good. And yeah, it's a long ride. It's a long ways away, but here again, to play in the first 8-man championship ever in the state of Illinois, that's something special. They can never take that away from any of those kids. So it was a great experience.
It was. And it was really cool to be a part of for me. Well, this is the second year of the I8FA playoffs, going from a 4-team playoff to a 14-team playoff. And this is, though, the first ever playoff show, Coach. And when we were part of that association meetings discussing how to do playoffs in Illinois, we love our playoffs in Illinois. And at the end of the day, after a lot of discussion, we decided, you know what, we're going to put everybody in. And how are we're going to blind draw some guys in. How did we end up landing on all that?
Well, I give you credit, Nate. You came up with the idea. It was kind of your brainchild to do this, and we ran it past the association, and we thought it would be neat to kind of put some more hope maybe in.
Yes.
Instead of matching that 14 up with the 1 automatically. I mean, it could still happen that way. It could still end up that way, but at least there's some excitement. They're not sure. They're not going to be sure until probably 40 minutes from now when they really know, when they see their bracket put up there. But I think it's a great idea. We're going to see how it works out. People still don't know whether they'll be on the road or away, and a little bit of excitement for it, you know?
Yeah, well, for those of you that wanted to know how we landed here, we had a couple main goals in mind. Number one, with the playoff, of course, we wanted those big dogs separated from each other. You always want to separate your 9-0s, 8-1s. And beyond that, then we also wanted to make sure the teams that were the 0-9s or the 1-8s, we just didn't want them to feel defeated. We still wanted them to have some hope, and that was a key word, as you said, and this is the system we landed on. Let's look at some I8FA bracketology. Here's how it works. First of all, we are sponsored by True Value Manufacturing Company. A huge shout out to them for sponsoring us. We are so thankful. They are the official sponsor of the I8FA. True Value Easy Care Paint, now with 5 certifications, including asthma and allergy friendly. Here is how the brackets work. All teams in the I8FA that meet the enrollment limit of 400 students or less are in the playoffs. Now, there is one exception with ISD who opts out. Just with their school calendar, it doesn't work out for them. Number 2, all teams are seeded by this criteria. Number 1, wins. Number 2, head-to-head. Number 3, playoff points, which is the IHSA system. And number 4, if needed, would be a coin flip. The third one is the top 6 seeds are placed into the bracket with the number 1 and number 2 seeds each receiving a first-round bye. The remaining teams are then drawn blind into the bracket, starting with the 6-seeded game and working back to the games that play into the top 2 seeds. John, that is how the brackets will work. I think it's a good system.
Yeah, I think it is. I think, we pretty much follow to what the IHSA does. I want to shout out, too, to Lake Forest Academy. They're the other team out of the 16 that doesn't qualify for our playoffs because of the enrollment size. They're over 400, but it's not only the enrollment size, it's also the fact that they are not a full member school of the IHSA, and we follow that rule. So they would not qualify for the IHSA playoffs, and therefore they don't qualify for the 8-man association playoffs. But they won again today. They've had a good year. I believe they finished 5-4, middle of the road in the standings. So I wanted to give them a shout out too.
Well, with LFA, we've tried hard. I guess what I'm trying to say is we've tried very, very hard since day one to work closely with the IHSA.
Yes. Because
we know our goal, we would like to see the IHSA take this over and be a part of the IHSA one day. And I think the $1 million question that I get asked the most is, when's that going to happen? And we don't know. but we do know this: we are making progress.
Well, and I just had a nice conversation with Mr. Anderson, Craig Anderson, the other morning from the I8FA, and I think they know they're investigating ways of doing things properly when they take it over. And I think he knows it's coming sooner than later because we are growing and we're growing at a fast rate.
Well, without further ado, Coach, let's take a look at how the seeds played out this year. Here are your seeds for the 2019 playoffs, sponsored by True Value Manufacturing Company. At number 14 in a record of 0-9 was Bunker Hill, who played a lot of teams tough this year. At number 13, it's John Lawler's Alden Hebron Giants with a record of 1-7. Seed number 12 goes to Westminster Christian at 1-7 with their victory coming over Alden Hebron. At number 11, winners last night in a close one over Alden Hebron at 2-6 is Judah Christian. At number 10 is North Fulton with a record of 2-7. At number 9, that's Low Point Washburn Co-op with a record of 3-4. At number 8, Metro East Lutheran with a seed of 5-4. And your number 7 seed coming into the 2019 playoffs is Christian Life Co-op, also with a record of 5-4. That tiebreaker coming down to head-to-head on a Week 1 matchup between Christian Life and Metro East Lutheran. Coach, that's the seeds 7 through 14. Those teams will go into the draw.
Into the bucket.
Who is your dark horse? Who's your sleeper besides your Alden Hebron Giants? So you're in a unique position because you have a team in this.
Right.
So let's say outside of your Giants, who would be your sleeper in this group that's going into the draw?
Well, I know you've got one that you picked. I've got one that I'm going to throw out there, but I've also want to mention another. But I like North Fulton. I know they've had a rough season, but I'm telling you, Elliot Craig is a really good coach. We faced him in the playoffs years ago. They've played a tough schedule. I mean, if you look at their opponents' points, they've played a hard schedule.
They have.
And I think depending on the matchups that they draw here, they could do some damage in the playoffs. Christian Life, maybe if they get back healthy and get everybody back, they're also another team that could do a little damage too.
Well, my dark horse, I'd have to go with Metro East Lutheran. I know they lost that in the beginning of the year to Christian Life. I feel like they've been coming on stronger and stronger as the year goes on. They've got a big victory over a talented Flanagan Cornell Woodland team. They're dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just telling you, they're dangerous. I think if I'm sitting as one of those top 6 seeds, that's probably the team I'd least like to see come out of that bucket. But as we know, we can't control that.
No, right.
Shall we take a look at the top 6 seeds, or you got something to add to that?
No, let's do it.
All right, let's look at what our bracket looks like as of right now with your top 6 seeds in there. You'll see them. We're going to announce them one at a time, starting with your number 6 seed. That is number 6 with a record of 6-3, Danville Schlarman. That's Schlarman Academy out of Danville, and they are excited to have football back at Schlarman.
Well, there you guys were, just seeing some highlights from Schlarman. They've got a really solid quarterback down there. I believe that's the coach's son, and he's thrown for over 2,000 yards. They've got a couple receivers that are very talented, one with over 1,000 yards, one with 700 yards just about. Here's another team. They're seeded 6th, home field, home game, first round of the playoffs, they could do some serious damage in the playoffs.
Well, Schlarman is a storied program. They have 2 state championships to their name. They were from the early 80s, and they were a part of the Hoopston Area Co-op a year ago. So when you look them up on I8FA, you do not see a 2018 record. But this year, they're sitting at 6-3, an early season loss to Polo, a mid-season loss to MCP, and a late season loss to Hanover River Ridge, which happened to have been the top 3 teams pretty much most of the season. And Schlarman with some good wins in there, and they do like to throw the ball. Head coach Matt Blurton has been excited to bring football back to Schlarman Academy. And Coach, you guys did not play these guys this year.
No, we didn't. I saw them on film a couple times when we were scouting for other games. But yeah, like I said, they like to throw it around. They're hard to cover. They got some good receivers. They got some size. So they're multi-talented, and I think they play pretty solid defense from the points that they've given up. And here's another team too that they broke away from a co-op to get their own identity and their own Friday night football
Yes.
back. And I think we're seeing that with this 8-man football team.
Hey, this is American football. It's about community. It's about opportunity for kids and something for them to learn from and grow in the game and getting football numbers in America to go back up. Hey, let's look at your number 5 seed. Back at the bracket, your number 5 seed also broken a tie between FCW and Pawnee. The 5 seed goes to Pawnee, and they are coming in at 6-3. Your Pawnee Indians out of Pawnee, Illinois, their first year in the I8FA.
There again, you've been watching the highlights from the Pawnee team. Once again, some big size on this roster. These kids are big, they're strong, they're fast. They've got a running back that's pushing 1,200 yards. He's probably over that by now. Scored 16 touchdowns. Zach Fisher, their quarterback, does a really nice job. We didn't see him this year. Here again, I think I saw him once on film. But very big, very strong, and I know their community's fired up about this too, because their coach and the administration and everything, and they snuck up and took that 5 seed, and they've had a pretty tough schedule themselves with a lot of opponents' points.
I was able to catch a game with them, between them and MCP. They did a great job of slowing down the clock. I talked to head coach Kit Fine before the game, and he couldn't emphasize enough how good it's been for their school and their community.
Yep.
That they are fired up. And you're right, they have good size. Old Liam Monahan at running back with over 1,200 yards rushing. He's a load. They are a force to be reckoned with here in these playoffs, and I think they have high hopes. I think they're a team that would like to make a deep run, and that's their goal. They're not happy, I don't think, with just qualifying. I think they've enjoyed this run, and they'd like to see how far they can take it.
Yeah, defensively, they're real solid. They're another team that hasn't given up a whole lot of points. So, in the end, I'm an old defensive coach. Defense wins championships, and I'll look at that quite often when I want to pick my teams,
Well, they're going to need to rely on their running game, and they've got a round 1 game coming up here that they're going to have to get ready for. They'll find out that opponent in a few minutes. Let's go back to our bracket and meet your number 4 seed. That's Flanagan Cornell Woodland. The Falcons of FCW coming in at 6-3 with some big wins.
were the highlights for Flanagan. 6-3 record. They had a little tough stretch in the middle of the season. They played some of the tougher teams in the association. Once again, another team very fired up about being part of it this year. We have a little history with Flanagan. We played him back in the 11-man playoffs.
Okay.
I bring that up just because I'm looking at a lot of these teams that have joined us, and they were all predominant teams that were in the 11-man playoffs year after year. Flanagan and Polo and Cuba, North Fulton, and us included, and it shows you where we've kind of transitioned, and now hopefully they'll be predominantly in the I8FA playoffs from here on. But another team that's very excited. Quarterback plays really well. They're big up front too. They've got a deep roster, so they've been able to work through injuries, things like that. They've got a pretty good sized roster. I expect them to play strong in the playoffs.
Well, led by head coach Todd Reed, I believe this is his first year there. A year ago they were 0-9.
Yeah.
Now they're 6-3 and playing some good football. Lost to two big teams right in the middle of the schedule. Lost a heartbreaker, I know, to Metro East Lutheran as well, which is, again, that's a dangerous team. And since those three losses are really seem to be picking up steam.
Yeah.
And they're led by that running back who seems to be a load. I was seeing him on the highlights. That's that I8FA, if I mispronounce your name. I'm very sorry, but he's leading the way with 11 touchdowns. That was going into last week, and he looks to be for real. Other kids, that Braden Wallace at quarterback, Tyler Harms, defender William Weber. So shout out to FCW on the rebounding the program. Again, that's what it's about.
Keeping football alive.
Let's move back to the bracket and meet your number 3 seed coming in again at 6-3. Hanover River Ridge. And they have put together an outstanding season and look to be a contender for a state championship.
All right, those were the highlights for River Ridge. I know a little bit about these guys. We played them week 3. We went out there and played on just a beautiful night out west playing ball, and they're a real good, real solid team. Fast, very athletic. Coach Nichols has done a great job with them. They've got a stud for running back in Caleb Rhodes. I think he's pushing probably 1,200 yards and about 19 or 20 touchdowns. Kid runs hard, plays hard. I do know they lost one of their better linebackers, so that's hurt them a little bit here from the middle of the season on. But still, real solid team, well coached. They play great defense, very aggressive on defense. So there again, I'm a defensive guy. I would say that they'll be right there going into the end. Even though the record's 6-3, they tough schedule. Good football team though, real solid all the way across the board.
And they're led by head coach Doug Nicholas. A year ago, they were 4-5 with a big victory over Polo in the regular season. And this year going 6-3. And I think when they're looking at the brackets, I don't think they can avoid, if you're a River Ridge fan, you can't avoid looking out and looking to the future and saying, hey, we would love to get another crack at Polo in those semifinals. But hey, they'll have a few teams to deal with before that's possible, because there's a lot of good teams in this I8FA, and the draw is coming soon. Let's go back to our brackets and meet your number 2 seed at 9-0. It's the Polo Marcos.
watched the highlights for the Polo Marcos, and we do have a little history with this team too, Nate. We went out to a camp, an 8-man football camp out at William Penn University this summer, and a great experience. And it was us and Polo and another team from Iowa out there. And I knew right then after being in camp with them and their coaches, they were going to be special. They've got some kids that can play, some great athletes, good kids, great coaching staff, and they're just a complete team all the way around. Their quarterback, Tucker Mumford, he throws a pretty ball. He probably doesn't get to throw it as much as he'd like because of what they run on offense, but he does a great job for him. He's also a great defender. He's got 47 tackles. They've got some kids that can run the ball and block. Jace Coffey's got 9 touchdowns. Alex Davies has got 8. And Cole Favre, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, I apologize, Cole, 37 tackles on defense. These kids play solid football. They're just well coached, good team, great athletes, not overly big, but boy, are they athletic.
And you say well coached, they're led by Jeff Bumstead. A year ago, they were 5-5. 1A state playoff qualifiers, and now this year they've made the leap into 8-man football, and they are 9-0, really yet to be pushed. This team I've heard nothing but great things about, and I know they are fired up in Polo. I've spoken on with their radio announcers over at WLLT who are fired up for this as well, and everyone's talking about the Polo Marcos, and it feels good to be on top for them. I know. You got anything else to say about them before we move on?
62 points given up for the season. 62 points. So they play great defense.
And that's exactly what I've heard. Look out for this defensive juggernaut. And speaking of defense, what if we talk about offense? And when I think offense in the I8FA,
Milford,
I think about number 1 seed Milford Cissna Park at 9-0. That's the Bearcats. They call themselves MCP.
Well, Coach, there is your defending state champs right there, and you just saw the highlights of those guys, and I think it was 5 highlights of 5 different kids scoring. So I mean, we were just talking about defense. Now we're going to throw it over the other side. Offensively, they have scored 528 points this year. Now that being said, talking to Coach Schwartz, they've had such big leads. He's pulled their kids out at halftime a lot of times. A lot of their starters didn't play the whole second half against us, and trust me, I appreciated that. But, so could they have scored more? Yes, a lot more.
Yes.
So, you're looking at an offensive juggernaut, and then we were just talking about Polo being a defensive one, and, well, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but boy, that could be a showdown.
Well, it's hard not to when you look at a bracket. It's hard to ignore 2 9-0 sitting opposite each other. But Milford Cissna Park, led by Clint Schwartz, head coach there for several years now, and they are scoring like crazy, averaging 58 points a game. They're led by Penn Stoller. That's 18 touchdowns. That's 18 throwing touchdowns with 0 interceptions, Coach. He also leads the league in tackling. Second in rushing. Nick Allen at wide receiver. Angel Salinas at running back. Keegan Boyle at wide receiver. and probably one of the most devastating O-linemen I've seen in some time in small school football, Rudy King. You had a few things to say about Rudy King, Coach.
I'll tell you what, Rudy's the real deal. He's big, he's strong, he's fast, he's athletic. I'm not going to say our kids are scared of him, because I'd hope my kids aren't scared of anybody, but any normal high school kid sees a man-child like that coming at them, they're going to think twice, So, yeah, Rudy, you're the real deal. Keep it up, buddy.
Well, that's your top 6 seeds right there, and let's take a look now, right? So now comes the most fun part of the show.
Yeah, we're getting there.
It's time to start talking about the draw. But before we get to the draw, you've seen the bracket. Let's talk for a moment about who's going to be your home team. Well, here's how the home team is figured. Again, sponsored by True Value Manufacturing, the official sponsor of I8FA, True Value Easy Care Paint, now with 5 certifications, including asthma and allergy friendly. Here's how they figure the home team. The team that has hosted the fewest number of home playoff games will host that playoff game that's coming up. Really pretty simple. Now, however, here's the tiebreaker. If both teams have hosted an equal number of playoff games, such as in round 1 where both have hosted 0, then the tiebreaker is the higher seed. So your higher seeded team will host, and that format carries over all the way into the state championship game, which is at Monmouth College. However, still, the home team will be decided by that same format.
Yep.
Coach, what do you think of that home team system, and how nice would it be to get a home playoff game?
Well, it'd be great, and here again with the draw, the way we're doing it, for once we get the games for the 6 through 3, it's anybody's guess what'll happen after that for those 2 play-in games. So we'll see what happens. This is the exciting, fun part of it right here.
Well, let's not delay. Let's get to the draw, and we even toiled about how to do a draw.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there's only so many ways to do it. You put the names in a hat or a bucket, this case, and you draw them out. So, Coach, show everybody, hey, the bucket is empty, and here go the teams in the draw. Go ahead, Coach.
All right, well, we're going to put the number 7 seed, the Christian Life Eagles, in. The number 8, Metro East Lutheran. Number 9, Washburn, Low Point. Number 10, Cuba North Fulton. Number 11, Judah Christian. Number 12, Westminster Christian. Lucky 13, the Giants from Alden Hebron. And number 14, Bunker Hill.
Well, let's put the lid on that and give that a huge shake, Coach. It might get loud in here for a moment, but we don't want any doubters. We want you to know that this is as random as it could get. And I'll tell you what, as you shake that, give it a good shake.
We're going to shake this hard once, and I'm going to take the cover off and set it back down. We're not going to shake it again. So where they fall, because it's going to be loud. Here we go.
I think it's random now.
I think it is.
It's random now. Now, don't you dare look inside that, Coach.
I won't do that.
You're drawing out.
You take it. You take the cover off.
You're drawing out, so I will be in charge of this. I do not get to put my hand in here. The lid is off, and let's draw out the first team. The team that Coach draws out right now is going in and feeding into the number 6 seed Danville Schlarman Hilltoppers. So here's who the Hilltoppers will play. Who's going to Danville, Coach?
It's going to be the Eagles from Christian Life.
And isn't that interesting? We've got number 6 versus number 7 right out of the gates. And boy, that is a tough draw with Christian Life coming to Danville. But they're going to get a great game right out of the gates. I think that place should be packed. I cannot wait to see this one. Let's talk about Christian Life. The Eagles at 5-4. Now let's take a look at maybe some highlights of Christian Life and watch them play ball a little bit.
you have the Christian Life Eagles highlights. I'm sure Coach Shep isn't too happy with me right now pulling that 6 and 7 matchup out of the bucket, but it is what it is. That's what's going to make this exciting. The Eagles are a very balanced team, offensively and defensively. They've scored 242 points and given up 238. They got off to a blazing start early in the year. Played really good football. Beat Metro East Lutheran week 1. They're again a very dangerous, talented team, and they've got some kids that can play. Now they've been a little banged up lately, but hopefully they'll be trending back the right way here. Get a little bit healthy before next week, and that'll be a good matchup, good game.
And what I've always found unique and interesting about Christian Life is that if they match up well, they really are a handful. Yeah. You know, they play a very physical brand of football, and Coach Shep's been doing it for a long time. I think that is an outstanding round 1 matchup. Now, it's easy for me to say because I don't coach either team, so I get to sit back and watch it. Coach, anything else to say about the Eagles before we move on in the draw?
Well, they got a couple kids that are key kids, so if they can get them healthy and play, John Boyk plays real strong for them, number 32, and then number 13, Jameson DiCarlo. Very fast. You know, he plays safety on defense, running back. Well, Coach Shep moves him all over the field on offense, but those two kids, they're real good football players, and he'll come up with a good game plan, and that should be a great matchup round 1.
Well, that's going to be a fun one, I'll tell you what. That's right down the street from me. Here we are in Champaign, Illinois. I might be able to go catch that game. Of course, I'll be coaching a game of my own, so who knows if that'll work out, but I think it's time to go to the draft, Coach.
Let's go.
The next team out of the hat will feed into the number 5 seeded Pawnee Indians. Coach, who's taking a trip to Pawnee? Can you reach?
Looks like the Tribe are headed to Pawnee. Judah Christian.
There you have it. Judah Christian, the Tribe out of Champaign, Illinois, will be heading to Pawnee, Illinois to take on the Indians. I do believe they played at one time before. But the Tribe seem to be getting a little healthy. I believe they got Big Joe Meyer back and his brother Christian. And when they get healthy, they can play some stingy football. Let's take a look at the Tribe.
Well, there you have Judah Christian's highlight film. Last night we came down and played them, and it was a crazy game. It was all Judah the first half, and we kind of turned things around in the second, but boy, those kids played with emotion last night. They played hard. They're dealing with some of the same things we are, small roster, injuries, but like you said, I think a couple of the kids are getting a little healthier, and boy, if they play with the emotion they have, you never can tell in the playoffs. Never can tell.
Well, of course, I know those kids well, coaching them a year ago. You know, one of their senior leaders, and Kyle Stone, is doing a great job with the team. The other senior, Joe Meyer, Coach Ted Meyer's son. And Ted, bless his heart, man, he hadn't coached football before, but he said, I'll do it. I'm going to take care of this team. And he's done a great job with it, has built a good staff, and has kept the team alive. And you know, when they played Milford Cissna Park in Week 8, they had 4 players play in the regional championship soccer game and come right to the football game that night and play.
Played again.
So again, it's a school who wants football in their school, and they're keeping it alive however they can. Well, let's get back to our draw. The next name out of the bucket, Coach, will be playing the number 4 seed, FCW. That means this team right here, whoever you draw it out, is going to Flanagan. Let's see who's going to take the trip to Flanagan, Illinois.
Well, that's going to be Westminster Christian going to Flanagan.
That's Westminster Christian, led by Tim Omen. I believe his boy Tyler is the quarterback of that team. And Westminster Christian has gone 1-7 this year. And now they will be loading up the bus or the van, whatever it is that your school takes at this point with smaller rosters. And they'll be heading to Flanagan to take on the Falcons. I believe that's going to be a great atmosphere.
Well, there was the highlights from the Westminster Christian Warriors. Now, I'm pretty familiar with this team. Coach Omen used to coach with us at Alden Hebron when we were co-op with Faith Lutheran, and Tyler, his son, who quarterbacks for him, he's one of our better players. So, yeah, I'm kind of, and he beat me. I must have taught him well, maybe. But yeah, great. He's done a great job down there. They're working with a roster of 12 players, and those kids have worked hard for him. They've come together. They like to sling it around a little bit. They throw the ball real well. Tyler plays quarterback, and they've got two real good receivers, Mitchell McGrath and Peter DeFalco. And those kids run good routes. They get open. If they can solid things up a little bit up front on defense and shore the defensive up, they could be a dangerous team, depending on weather. I know, like today they played, and he said in the rain things went a little tough for them because they do like to throw the ball around a little bit. But dangerous, I guess, would be the word I'd say.
Well, as a coach, nothing makes me more nervous than a team coming to town that throws it well. There's something about a team that throws it well. It's like the great X factor. So we'll see if Westminster Christian can keep slinging it well as they travel to Flanagan for a round one playoff game. And I said it before, I really feel like that's going to be a great atmosphere over in Flanagan for that game. And I wish both teams the best. That's going to be a fun matchup, and you can see we've already got the starts of some matchups. It'll be FCW versus Westminster feeding into Pawnee versus Judah. Those two, the winner of those two games would play each other. Well, let's move back to the blind draw. This team, the next team out of the bucket, coach, goes to River Ridge, the far northwest corner of the state. Who's traveling to River Ridge, Coach, to take on the River Ridge Wildcats?
Well, it's a beautiful facility, and it looks like they'll be going right up the road, Cuba, North Fulton.
That's Cuba North Fulton is feeding in to Hanover River Ridge Wildcats. Cuba North Fulton at 2-7 will make the trip up to Hanover to take on the Wildcats. I think that's going to be a great round one matchup. And again, as you said, this was your pick as the dark horse, one of the dark horses, a team that has really played everyone fairly tough. They play good football. They got a good program. Let's see what North Fulton can do.
for the highlights from Cuban North Fulton. Now, if I know one thing about North Fulton, and that's kind of why I picked them as my dark horse, I know they're well coached. We played them, as I said before, years ago in the playoffs, and they came up and put it to us, quite honestly. And we were the higher seed in that game. So they'll be well coached. They'll be ready to play. Elliott does a great job down there. They run the ball well. They've played, once again, the schedule, the results of their schedule at 2-7 maybe don't show just how good a team they are, because they have played probably the toughest schedule maybe in the whole association. So I expect them to go up to River Ridge and give them a game.
Well, it is a tough draw. I think that's what might have been the toughest draw in the whole bracket, is to feed directly into the number 3 seed, right? I mean, that's the highest seed team you can get, and I am sure Elliott Craig will have a good plan together. And again, they have been really thumped by no one, so look out. This is a team that could play good football at any time. North Fulton, I want to take a look at some of our stats, which I had some of our stats right with me, and I think they just fell away. But they have been able to rush the ball for quite a few yards, and several of their defenders lead the area, or in the top 5 in the area in tackling. And so they're playing. Their kids have to play hard-nosed defense a lot, and they're doing that. So shout out to the Wildcats from North Fulton for that. Well, we've got just the play-in games left to draw. When I look at the bracket, the first thing that comes to my mind, Coach, first of all, your Giants have not been drawn yet, but neither have Bunker Hill and Low Point, and they've played each other 3 times. I really just don't want to see those two have to play each other again, but it could happen, and that's how draws go. Sometimes it stinks, and sometimes it doesn't stink. It depends on who you are.
I told you, somebody's bound to be mad at me before the night's over here, but it is what it is, so we're going to see what happens. I agree with you, Nate. I hope for, it's always more fun in the playoffs to go play somebody else that you haven't seen, and it's exciting, and it's exciting for the kids, too. Sometimes it's good to go play a team that you haven't seen, and the kids even get a little more fired up about it. There's a little hope, so let's see what happens.
It is fun, but it is what it is. The blind draw is what it is. You got to live with it because it's blind, and you go with what it is. Let's draw. This team will be the first team feeding into play the Polo Marcos. So let's give it a draw, Coach. Pick someone out of the hat. Who's into our first play-in game?
Well, that's going to be Metro East Lutheran.
All right, it's Metro East Lutheran into our first play-in game. And if Metro East Lutheran can beat this unnamed team that has been announced yet, they would have to make the trip to Polo to try to beat the number 2 seeded Marcos. So there you have it. There you take a look at that bracket. There's Metro East Lutheran at 5-4, a very solid football team, and they were my pick, my dark horse, to come out of the draw to make some noise.
You've been watching the Metro East Lutheran highlights. They played up at Westminster Christian today in the slop and the rain, and came away with a big win up there today to give themselves a better position here in the draw. And with the teams that are left, they're probably looking, and I'm pretty sure they'll be home. They'll be home. We do know that at this point. They will be home. So they should be excited about that. And we're getting down to it here. There's only a few left. So
Well, they're led by head coach Robert Kepler. A year ago, we're 0-6, and now this year 5-4, and again continue to play good football. Even their losses, besides the ones the Juggernauts, they lost that tough one at the beginning of the year, the Christian Life. But they are dangerous, and I'm sure they're excited to be hosting a playoff game. That'll be a lot of fun. Coming off a couple years that have been very tough on the Knights, and now a little bit of new life in the program, and hosting a playoff game should be a lot of fun. But we won't find out who's going to go play them yet. First, we're drawing out of the hat a name of a team that will be playing in to play MCP. But in round one, at the top goes...
oh man, Bunker Hill.
That show the camera, coach, that's Bunker Hill. Bunker Hill will be playing in to play MCP, the number 1 seeded Bearcats. Bunker Hill, the Minutemen, happened to go 0-8 this year. Was it 0-8 or 9? Did they get 9 games?
0-9. Yep.
They got 9 games, and this team of a team that wasn't able to steal a victory, though, played a lot of close games, maybe even more close games than North Fulton.
The highlights from the Bunker Hill Chargers, and Nate, every coach that I've talked to this year that's played them, and I know they played Low Point Washburn 3 times because we just were trying to find games for both teams. Both them and Low Point kind of joined us a little late in the process, but we were able to get them games lined up. But every coach I talked to that's played them says they're probably the best winless team that they've played. They're learning, they're coming along, they're probably better than the record shows. So they've scored 166 points. They've given up 351. You know, that doesn't say too much about it. They've been getting the scores have been getting closer and closer as the year goes on. So you know, I expect they're excited to be in it. You know, here again, depending on who I pull out of here, hopefully we can get the right matchup. Hopefully that they don't have to play Low Point again for the 4th time this year.
That would be a bummer, but again, it is what it is. Led by head coach Michael Berg, Bunker Hill was a part of a co-op a year ago and got their program back and wearing the school colors, so super happy for them to be doing that. Well, it's time to find out who will be making the trip to Metro East to play the Knights. Who's going to go to Edwardsville? Coach, there's only 2 options, either Low Point or it's your Giants.
Or it's us, yeah.
Somebody's got to go.
I can't believe we're still in the bucket.
Let's see who's going.
Oh, boy. What are we doing here?
Can you find it? There's only 2 left.
2
They're in
left.
there.
I got it. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it.
It's Low Point Washburn. Hey, that's great news. That is what we wanted. We didn't want them to have to play again, and it is Washburn. That means the last name in the hat, coach, is yours, but we'll come to yours in a minute. Let's talk about Low Point Washburn, and this is a brand new team to football. Got their own team going today, a co-op with, I believe, Henry, and they will make the trip to Edwardsville to take on Metro East. Low Point won 3 games this year, all over Bunker Hill, but they did win 3, so congrats to them. They're in the playoffs.
Okay, you were watching the highlights from Low Point, and I was telling Nate a little story this afternoon when I come down. I got a real nice email from Aaron Davis, the AD up there at Low Point, and they came into the I8FA with us really late, and we kind of had to change some scheduling around to get them, enough games to qualify in that. And they won that first game of theirs, and I know it was a chore for them to put it all together at the last minute, but he sent me a nice long email thanking us for working with them, and how after that game that they won, I think they got a police escort back into town. The community's fired up about it. The kids are fired up, and it has saved football for those two little schools put together. So that's what this is all about, just keeping kids playing ball.
Absolutely. It should be a fun week for them. We talk about head coach Tony Davis, who's leading the charge over there, and I read a great article about how the celebrations when they had their first program win, the celebrations in town, it's just a special moment for these kids. So fun to be a part of. And we don't know much about these guys. I've seen very little footage besides that highlight reel. I struggle to find pictures online of them, right? So that's how new they are, right? You can Google them and still almost find nothing.
Right.
I'm excited to see what they can do, and I'm also excited. I can't tell you how pumped I was that I had to keep myself from jumping that they didn't have to play Bunker Hill again. I was nervous about that. But that brings us back to the bracket, and Coach could not help but fist pump when he saw the last team in is Alden Hebron, and he looked at that and said, well, and then it dawned on him that he is going to host a game. So that's Alden Hebron. Let's look at some highlights of the Giants. That's your Alden Hebron Giants, the last name out of the bucket, and they are coached by a longtime veteran, John Lawler, who is just finishing his 17th year at the helm for the Giants. Coach, you guys went 1-7 this year. I know lost a tough one last night that you would have liked to have won, but it sounds like you might get a guy or two back for the playoff game, so who knows what you guys are capable of. What are your thoughts?
Well, who knows? I told the kids last night, you know, that's why we did this draw. You never know. I can't believe my name came out last out of all this, but like I said, I'm sure I'm going to make somebody mad, but our kids should be happy right now. We're staying home. We get to host a game, so they should be fired up about that. You know, we'll get a kid back. We're still dealing with injuries and some other problems, you know, very small roster. But I hope the kids step up, focus this week, and actually take advantage of the opportunity that they have in front of them here.
Well, real quick, Coach, give us a quick list of some of your leaders of that team. I know some of the leaders of the other teams got some shout-outs, so I don't want to cut your guys short.
Well, we're very young. We're very young again. I mean, my big senior center just got hurt a little bit last night, Zach Herring, so I hope he's able to go next week. But we're led by our sophomore quarterback, Thomas Weber. He's having a pretty good year, and he's going through growing pains too, but he's played real solid ball for us. Tyler Cunningham, another sophomore. He's just getting more athletic and learning the game, basically. And the poor kid, I've had to move him around to about 4 different spots this year. But you know, he just keeps working hard and just keeps trying. The kids have played hard. We went through that 3-game stretch, and I called it the gauntlet. You know, where we played 1, 2, and 3, and that kind of beat us up and took a little of the wind out of us. But hopefully we can turn it around. We do get TJ Pauly back next week. He's probably one of our better players. Man, I hope he takes advantage of this opportunity.
Well, it's playoff time, and that's fun, and you also wear that AD hat. So now I'm sure your drive home tonight will start spinning. Oh, my goodness, I have to get ready to host a game. There's a lot of other ADs out there with you right now starting to plan already. Hey, how are we going to host this game? What time are we going to play? Coaches should be contacting each other to get on, you got to trade film through Huddle. Let's take a look at that bracket one last time. Here is a final look at your 2019 I8FA playoff bracket. There at the top, Milford Cissna Park with that number 1 seed feeding into them. You've got Alden Hebron at 1-7 and Bunker Hill at 0-8. Then you've got the number 4 seed Flanagan Cornell Woodland at 6-3. And they will be playing Westminster Christian. Number 5 seed Pawnee at 6-3 will be playing Judah Christian at 2-6. Number 3 seed River Ridge at 6-3 will be playing North Fulton at 2-7. Your number 6 seed Danville Schlarman at 6-3 will play host to Rockford Christian Life. And the feed-in game at the bottom to feed into the polo game will be Metro East Lutheran at 5-4, hosting Low Point Washburn at 3-4. All of this sponsored by True Value Manufacturing Company, the official sponsor of the I8FA. True Value Easy Care Paint, now with 5 certifications, including asthma and allergy friendly. Everyone, we are so thankful. Coach, what are your final thoughts looking at the first ever bracket?
Well, I think it was what we want it to be, or, well, some of us maybe, some of us not, but hey, we tried to make it exciting for you, and hopefully now guys are making plans already, and kids are fired up, or kids know, maybe some of them are even watching film already, maybe not, they're enjoying the moment, but I want to take a few moments, Nate, and thank you. Your son Grant's been on the controls here tonight, did a great job, Grant. And thank you and Bill Shepard for all the help with the association. We wouldn't be where we are without you, so I really appreciate that. And we're only growing. We're going to grow more. We've got 4 or 5 schools committed already for next year. I'm talking to about 8 or 9 more schools, so we could be at that 24, 26, 28 team level. So we're going to have to decide what we're going to do about the playoffs next year, when it comes to that. So,
well, 1 year at a time. This year is just kicking off with the playoffs coming. Hey, where will you be in week 1? Go to i8fa.org to view the brackets online. Those will be up and available for download, I would say, within 20 to 30 minutes from now. As we get off of here, we will upload those. Game times should be posted by Monday. Again, thanks to our sponsors at True Value Manufacturing Company. Hey, reach out to us at any time at i8fa.org if you and your school would like to look into playing football 8-man style.
8-man style.
That's all we've got. Thanks again. We hope to see you on next year's playoff show.